The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of enciphered craftwork that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly and uses his ears to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt, executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home-sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living God, stepping in score, Sunni as Allah, a.k.a. Skillustrator Low, and we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show, every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. And as I always say, and now for the 100th time, literally, this show is about my element of hip-hop, or I should say for this show, our element of hip-hop. What I call the writer of art on art and science on music, the only show in history on this hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran of over a quarter century, helped to pioneer, but as we soon shall see, did not dawn. As we come full circle in this 100th episode, I want to give immediately a shout out to my two brothers, my brother Paragon of PremierHipHop.com, my brother who's no longer here in the physical, Kevlar 7 of the Wise Men, peace to the God. He produced this intro I call My Brother's Son. That's literally the name of this intro. One of the great lyricists, a great beat maker, and the two of them, Paragon and Kevlar, are formed PremierHipHop.com, and it was there where I was able to exhibit what I thought, what was this hip hop writer, to be a full creator, putting creative poetry and prose inside of the text of the most technical pieces about music. Something that I think wasn't done before and was elevating things that weren't done before and kind of making it even more overt reality as an element. Whereas who I consider the father of my element, this hip hop writer element, he had his own forum to be creative and do whatever he wanted. And I wanted to do something that would make it overt, where we could say it was an element. And this is how you do it. So I wanted to make a manual of it. So today's show is going to be a very special show. But before that, though, open your purses, though. I got books out. Reel of 2020 by me, of ebook, PDF. It is only $5 plus whatever you want to give. A complete 70-page analysis of the best musicians and artists in hip-hop music today, bracketed in a revolutionary new system of ciphers that categorize the entire music universe. Instead of giving you my favorites, like everybody else does, which are filled with pop stuff and all that kind of crap, I want to give you the entire universe that you're stepping into. And you can go into it and make your decisions based on what you love. And they're bracketed into categories, so you see how these realities, how these styles overlap, and it'd be a brilliant thing. Also, the foundational text, becoming foundational text for this era I call the Invisible Renaissance, the filtered reel, essays from the Invisible Renaissance. My collection of art and science on music essays, a beginning collection of what I've written in these last 10 plus years of this great era that is invisible to so many, but filled with so much great music. That if you say it doesn't rival the 90s peak of recording, certainly honors it. And that book is out on Amazon, or you can DM me on Sunez at the IG, or you can email me, Sunez97, SUNEZ97 at gmail.com to get these books. And you get a free book. You get a free book called the Sunez Crates ebook with any purchase that you have. You know, before we continue, always shout outs to DJ Toshi and Classic Storm Radio. This is my other show that I do with DJ Toshi. I host a show, and we just did episode 295. We interviewed Agents of Reform. That's a duo with Rhinoceros Funk and Yazid. And we also interviewed the Great, you know what I mean, who doesn't do martial arts per se. But boy, he knew a lot about the ancient texts, though. So I love the album. It got great beats. Peace to Free Mind. He gave me a new album to check out of his. And I'm excited to do the analysis to that. But Peace to Free Mind, who did the beats on the new the Great album, though. Real nice beats. Great sample tech game. So, I said this is the 100th episode. I am very, very rarely celebratory. And it's probably because in what I do, teaching at a law school in Mecca, writing, which has very little immediate reward because it takes a while for people to find it, you know what I mean? But here I have the chance to say, wow, this is amazing to me because all of the great artists that I've been able to interview have helped me, but no one has helped me more than the God in my entire, I'm going to say, my entire really hip hop career, besides a couple of people. And it rivals people like Daysun, the God Daysun Allah, known as DX21 Crazo, the great writer. You know, we worked at The Source. He was the editor-in-chief of The Source, and that was a time for Odo, right? Yeah, it's like you can see all the flashbacks. My producer pulled me back from the flashback. You could see the smoke coming in here and everything. It was just crazy. But yeah, you know, when I write my own snitch text, then maybe you'll find out some stuff that happened at The Source and all that and stuff. But because I care about the music, I don't really write about that stuff. You know what I mean? But in an alternate universe, though, the snitch text is on sale. You know what I mean? But besides Daysun Allah, who brought me to a law school in Mecca to get knowledge of myself. I mean, what greater thing can you do for somebody? I was a Puerto Rican kid from Sunset Park. The gods were like some other people that do crimes. I didn't know what that was. And all I had was the clues of the lyrics and the music that I was just starting to really try to detail. You know what I'm saying? And was starting to get details on it. And without hip hop music, and without Daysun, I wouldn't have found a law school in Mecca and got the knowledge and been teaching here the last 21 years. And these things collide because very few people have really helped me in my career, like just help me, you know what I'm saying? And once I was, the two of the most important people in my career have been Thurston Howell III, who named me Skillustrator Low, you know, I would say who titled me Skillustrator Low, right? And it was a very surreal moment, but everything has been surreal with the Low Lives. I don't think that the Low Lives know how to have unsurreal moments, like regular moments. You know what I mean? We were at the great legend, the superstar, the one superstar. Rock Marciano is below, and he knows that too, and he's okay with that. But the one superstar, the 2010s, the beginning of this invisible renaissance was Sean Price. And in Sean Price's wake, I was being introduced by Spit Gems and others. Peace to Spit Gems, one of the great MCs of this era and ranks all time. He was introducing me to somebody else at the wake, and I don't know where Thurston came from. He just bullied the crowd, but he's big. Thurston's not big. He can push through the crowd. And he said, "No, that's not a writer. That's the Skillustrator." And I said, "You know what? If Thurston Howell calls me that, I think I could write it though in the byline. You know, right? I could do that. You know what I mean?" And what I try to write is my own way of writing. So, and I guess I'll get more into it though with our guest today. But after that, I was really already building with Rakim, Supreme Shabazz Allah, also known as Rudy Lowe, one of the original co-founders of the Low Lives, the Brooklyn crew, that has become an absolute organization, one that I am a part of and honorably known today. And it's a lot of reminiscing, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to say this to listeners because what a wonderful, priceless moment I had to say to get my L's. And it felt like such a validation of props, like a little kid. I'm not getting this because I stole a piece, though. I had like 3 pieces. I was going to this low thing, and there was pretty much one low piece left at home. You know what I'm saying? They were all, I was wearing everything. You know what I'm saying? I was wearing everything I had at the time. You know what I mean? And I probably left the black Ranger boots because I had the other Ranger boots. Yeah. And then the other 2 or 3, cheap shirts that I had and everything like that. You know what I mean? And I'm getting my L's on the deuce. I'm freezing as hell because I suck at this stuff. And I'm showing my shirts. I'm showing underneath my shirts. And Sadadix is right there. And he's going, yeah, the God got it. You know how the God do. Well, and he's like a hype man. It sounds like a damn song.
Yeah,
and mind you, it's like a full circle. So much of this full circle because the first 3 albums me and my twin brother, Manny, were ever able to purchase was Low End Theory, Future Without a Past, Leaders of New School, and Brand Nubians One for All. So that's all we had. We burned those things like hell. It's a good thing that it wasn't one of those priority cassettes because we would have been asked out. You know what I mean? Because Gangstar, those things burned out. The Gangstar albums on EMI tapes sucked. But it was such a wonderful moment. And the low lives that love hip hop and really are doing hip hop, they have done a lot for me. And none other than my first guest here, Rakim Supreme Shabazz, aka Rudy Lowe. He is a activist. He is a photographer. He is a cultural ambassador liaison that has branched out the low lives. You know what I mean? A lot of the connections that are made with the community of artists, the people in the street seeking to get off the street and channel their abilities into the art world or into a functional world of prosperity, of respectable prosperity. A lot of that has the hand of Rakim. And I'm saying that because Rakim won't say that. I have to say it, and I do. So when you see pictures of Rakim with somebody, it usually is because he just did something for them. That's a fact, Rakim. That's a fact. You go to his page, you see pictures of documentation of events, parades, strikes, worker strikes that he's in part of. You know what I mean? Yeah. Events, book events that he's a part of. And it's been such a blessing to know you on that level. And it made no sense when you offered me the L's the first time, but I want to thank you for that. You know what I mean?
I saw a lot in you. That's why.
Indeed. And let me stop right there and get my other guest on the line. The other guest I'm calling right now on the line, though, is before I learned of Miguel Piñero and decided to do like Amiri Baraka and be what the jazz world has in hip hop, it was this man here.
It was me.
Peace. This is Sunni as Allah Bonz. I am in the middle of this intro here for you. I'm gonna rewind it a little bit, Bonz, because it's been a long time. People have probably said this to you. Maybe Rakim has said this to you. Maybe I have said this on the Facebook or the social media, right? But I think my story puts into context the value of Bonz Malone's, not just his career, but his life. You know what I mean? I didn't read anything when I went to college. I didn't read on my own. The first time I ever saw a hip hop magazine was take downtime between college classes, because I went to Baruch College and I didn't know that all the magazines, as you know, Bonz, was all in that area. Union Square, 28th Street, 26th Street. And I was bumping into all this shit, and I had no idea. I was raw as fuck.
Right.
And I saw a magazine, and I started to say, oh, shit, they write about music that I like. Because I got into hip-hop again because I only liked the beats.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I didn't like the lyrics because I couldn't catch them, and it wasn't really relating to me because I didn't think it was supposed to. It was a Puerto Rican kid from Sunset Park. That's not our music. I don't know what my music is, but I know that they're telling me it's not. But b-boying related. And so I b-boyed, and I love breaks. But then later, the lyrics started to relate. You know what I mean? When I get to college, we start collecting magazines, though. And I collect a magazine my twin brother gets mad at me for. But then I keep telling him, Rosie Perez is on the cover. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? I couldn't help myself, right? And it was this is the introduction for me. It was the January 94 issue of Vibe magazine with Rosie Perez on the cover, that fine-ass Rosie Perez.
Oh, yeah.
And I got that magazine, right? And my brother is doing extracurricular activity, and he's writing in the school paper, The Ticker. And my old earth, Remembered Imperfection, R.I.P., my old earth, my mom, wanted me to do something too. And all me and my brother knew how was to write, because that's all she made us do as kids. And that's all I didn't do as an adult, as a young adult, right? So I looked through the magazine, right? And I always tell Bonz this. My first column I ever wrote, the first thing I ever wrote for the Baruch College newspaper was a long piece I argued for my brother to put in as the editor. And it was called The 3 R's That Feed and Starve Hip Hop. Record labels, radio, and R&B.
Word.
And that was my first piece ever that I ever wrote.
That's what's up.
And I bought, and people gave me props for writing about stuff. And then I bought Vibe magazine, and all of it was like a little bit too pop for me. I was like, I don't really care about R&B. At that time, I was just discovering soul music, so all new R&B was whack to me. All new R&B, and so I go into the Sticks and Stones, and I'll never forget that piece. I'll signify it like this. This is about real life as real people have to live it. Some names, places, and details have been changed to protect the innocent, the guilty, and the rest of us. And I thought, this nigga is nice. And I said, because I used to argue with my brother. I said, why don't you leave this in? Why do you have to give me word count? What's it? I didn't know anything about spacing, the place. You know, I was like, he's my brother. He's supposed to hook me up. What the fuck?
Right.
And I wanted to curse. I wanted to do everything. I said, and everything. My whole entire existence with my brother, when the one semester he was the editor, I was like, but Bonz does it. Why don't you let me do it? But Bonz does this shit. Bonz gets to curse. I get to curse. And Bonz, the Sticks and Stones columns changed my life so much that when I started my own Sunset Style column, and I had my man Smo draw me a wild style character, Sunset Style, and draw me with the Kangos, because that's all I wore then, as the logo. And I stopped reading your column, Bonz, because I said, I can't be like Bonz. I got to stop reading him.
Right.
Because if I keep reading him, though, the nigga
You have to create your own lane, yeah.
And I didn't live that life. You know, Rakim, that I didn't live the street life. I was a kid that was around it, and I said, wait a minute. I learned from my parents. My dad lived the street life, and I didn't do any of it, though. I made them proud, but I have to go back into the street because there's things I want to learn. I went and got the knowledge of myself. I went to Harlem to get knowledge of myself. I went to go get the hip hop stories, though, where I probably shouldn't have went, because I was going there when I didn't know Kung Fu. I was going there when I didn't know anybody in the projects, though. You know what I mean? What a blessing it was when Thurston took me around Brownsville. That was like, because I was going around Flatbush looking for artists like a damn dick. You know what I mean? Like, for pieces they might not publish. But here's the thing, Bonz. Here is my issue, Bonz, and why you were such a legend to me is because I said this in 1995. I didn't have time to pull it out, but my word is bond, and bond is life. In 1995, I wrote in a Sunset Style paper, I said that what I am doing is the fifth element of hip hop. I knew people at Blaze Magazine, and later they used that. I'll say to the end that they took it from me. I said, because I used to tell them, and I don't want to name names, but they got 6 figures and they do shit. And they don't write like the way I'm writing. I said, the problem with what I'm doing, and I used to tell this to them too, is that we're talking about other guys and we don't make anything. We don't create anything. Because I wanted to do, like, my shit wasn't like Bonz. But I'm getting paid to write reviews and Q&As, and they're not creative. So I said, if we could put something creative inside the technical piece, then it would be an element of hip hop. And it wasn't until the 2010s where I could really show what I really meant by that. And I went to every magazine, Bonz. When I first got Bonz, do you remember, my first question to you, do you remember when Vibe had the website and they had the /thesuicide.com, when they had that? Do you remember when they tried to make the Suicide like a more hardcore version of Vibe.com? When it right? And
I was down there with the group that was doing it, but we were too busy arguing all the time for me to even get closer to it, because we were there was so many things that were going on.
I can imagine.
Back then, obviously.
I can imagine. The few times the guys that worked at Vibe as young kids that would become part of Double XL and then later eventually go back to Vibe, they were going to Baruch too. And they were the ones that put me on and said, you'll be a content editor. And there was one time in 96 where I went up there and I didn't even know where the suicide room was because I said, hey, I'll be right back. And I didn't go to the bathroom. I was looking for Bonz Malone. I was looking for you. And I thought, it's a magazine.
That's
Wouldn't
what's
he
up.
have his own?
That's what's up. You
I'm
gotta
just
respect
thinking
that.
like, you know, like in movies where everybody has their own like room. And I thought you had your own office and Bonz Malone office, this office, and Quincy Jones is somewhere else and shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, maybe I could find Bonz Malone. And honestly, to me, I was a young kid burning bridges, and I was like, all I saw was like a lot of bougie Negroes with dreads and you know, like shit that I didn't understand. A lot of soy milk before I became vegan. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it was like I didn't understand a lot of it. So I burnt a lot of bridges, and I definitely burnt bridges there. And once they plagiarized the piece I wrote and used it again, I decided to just move on. And that's how I ended up in all the magazines. You know, so like Bonz, when you go back, people know your history. I was telling Rakim that, you know, today's Kobe Bryant's born day, you know, and remembered imperfection to Kobe. But you're like the Kobe Bryant too of journalism, because you came out as a teen writing and all that, you know, like you were writing graffiti, but how did you find the style? Because I have so much trial and error that's in that college newspaper. It's not even fair to that newspaper. You know what I mean?
The good thing about failures, they make success stories later. So
Yeah, it's true.
every time you fail, you just know a way what not to do, but you know what to do next.
Right.
You know, so like, don't think that Bonz or myself had an easy road. We did a lot of failures too. That's what makes a great man. You know, your failures, not your wins. Not your
Well,
wins.
let's go back to that, right? Before we even talk about this, how you get in there, Bonz writing. How you start out you're a graffiti writer. Rakim is a graffiti writer, right?
Yeah.
And Thurston Howe's a graffiti writer.
Yes.
So this triumvirate that is so important in my career right now.
And we all break dance too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yo, used to break dance.
We're all breakdance. How did you guys know each other? I want to hear Bonz' version of the story first. How did you all know each other?
It was a
It's
cop
just being
involved.
at the right. It's just being at the right place at the right time, man. It's you know, certain things have nothing to do with us. Like we happen to be in the same class, you know, and during one particular year, and even if we knew of each other, you know, before then, it was the synergy of that year, you know, and the friendship that we, you know, we developed in that year. We started having the conversations, start making friends. Like, oh, yo, I do this. Like, my home life is trash. What about you? You know,
Same
it
story,
just-
yeah.
That's how it begins, you know. But that's just the beginning. And then when you put the cards on the table, man, you know, you can't be surprised that 20, 30 years later, you still have a solid rapport. You still friends, love each other, camaraderie, you know, all of that because you were real the moment when you met them, man. You didn't have nothing to lose. Neither did they. You know what I'm saying? So me, Rudy, Vic, you know, my man CIE, you know, Haji Jones, he just came back from prison doing 23 years, a body he didn't commit. You know what I mean? I'm able to talk to him on the phone. It was this all the same year that we met each other.
You know what's interesting? Right. Indeed. What makes it, it's almost like how do you test each other? Because I'm thinking of one of the few because I looked up all the few pieces that I did read from Bonz, right? Sticks and Stones.
Yeah.
And especially the ones that really had an emphasis on me so they were easy to remember. You know what I mean? Sticks and Stones column, August 1994, Writer's Revenge. That piece had a real profound impact on me because I write. A lot of people read if people read my writing, they know it's very angry, it's very hardcore, and mine doesn't come from having a criminal life, but it does come from having a poverty definitely poverty drenched life.
Humble
you know what
beginnings.
I mean? Right, absolutely.
Humble beginnings.
You know what I mean? And having a revolutionary mind state, learning about Puerto Rico, being a independista, being a radicalized, all of those things, and getting knowledge of myself. Yeah. But that writer's revenge column, though, always made me say, I could write angry the way I want to. You know what I mean? I could write vicious. I could write tough. But you were so rugged in that piece about how you dealt with other writers. And how does a writer, another graph writer, become your friend and not just be competition as an enemy?
We got to be down in the same crew. You know, we look for the same things. You know, friends are the ones who choose you. You choose each other. You know, so starting with the names that I had already mentioned, you know, you going out, you start tagging, and it's an opportunity for you, whether you're, you know, whatever your economic status is, you're able to become known. You know, that there's brothers that's in the neighborhood that they're dealers, you know, they're down with whatever hustle that they are, and they ain't older than us. You know that they got it. You could see that they got it. But for me, you know, I think the driving force was always because I'm an only child. So my friends are my family. And at the same time, I didn't look at the drug dealers and you know, the hustlers as competition. You know, I didn't necessarily want to be like them, but I wanted them to respect me regardless. Whatever I'm going to get into, you know, you're going to respect mine, because I'm not trying to battle you when I get to your age. You know what I'm saying? So writing was the thing that, you know, that first element of hip hop, you know, even going back to slavery, how important writing is. You leave notes on trees for the Underground Railroad. There's always messages in graffiti, man. You know, even the creator himself, you know, wrote on walls, you know, and Daniel had to give the prophecy about what, you know, God had decreed to the king of Babylon. So if God is a writer, man, then it's real. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, just having that drive in graffiti after high school, coming into the industry, I still had it. You know, I still had that drive. And I didn't read a whole lot of books. I didn't go to college either. I'm a high school dropout, you know, but I loved hip hop. My mom was an English major. She never pushed writing on me. I was already tagging, but I always had that King's English in the house. You know, she went to Cambridge when she was 14 years old. She had a 2-year scholarship. She's, you know, a verbal linguist at 16 years old, and that opened many doors for her. But I didn't think about it as a hustle or as a way to get on. I was just, you know, when I got an opportunity to write for a high school newspaper, I was able, through the high school newspaper, to meet certain people that really did it. Now, you made a really good point about speaking or thinking like a revolutionary, and you know, that's where a part of the Angry Voice comes from. You know, it's not just poverty, but injustice. You know, injustice in the streets, people getting beat up by cops. That's ghetto life. That's ghetto living. Yeah. And I came up with Abiadoon. Abiadoon from the Last Poets came to the school and was like, yo, one of the teachers introduced me to him. He's like, this man right here knows the struggle. You need to know about the Last Poets from the 60s. And, you know, and then that's how I met Abiadoon. And then after him, I met the legendary Eddie Ellis from the Juvenile Justice Society or Association here in New York City. Now, he was a former Black Panther, but he has one of the greatest smiles that you could ever see. You know what I mean? So he ended up doing, I don't know how many years, at least 20. And he came out and then he just dedicated his life, just like on the inside, he did it on the outside to free the slaves, you know. And I had a case, and that's how I met him. And that that voice, you know, from graffiti, from hip hop, from these two revolutionaries on two different platforms, but on the same side. Just that was the right mixture for me, you know, to really go into writing as a career more than the high school newspaper. Now go into magazines, and even if you start off with music, you know, have a strong voice underneath it, a strong conviction. And it was because of my association, my friendship with them, that, you know, by the time I got the Vibe magazine, it was like, yo, you got a higher calling than just music, bro. This is, and now it's on. Like, so Sticks and Stones, when I went to rehab, I came back, I'm sober now. Sticks and Stones started taking a different shape, and then Tough Street came.
Right,
and then we was really rocking after that.
I mean, these columns are, I want to take a moment to rewind back again for Rakim's side of this, you know, side of this as well, because also the survival aspect, I want people to know how that juxtaposes with the low lives, and because a lot of people think it's like, yo, we're just gonna collect low and we're obsessive with this, but it was really a survival thing. It grew out of the graffiti, as you always tell me. Tell me about that.
Well, you see, like when when I met Bonz and I met Thirst, right? Well, Vic, we was always getting in trouble. So we ended up in the same type of classes. It was a class called alternate ed. We had a police officer was our teacher, because, like, you know, they used to try to put hands on us, and they did, you know. But half the time, half the time we deserved it, though. You know, half the time we deserved it. You know, so we got a taste of police brutality, 10, 11. You know. The one thing I love about our band of brotherhood that we got, Bonz motivated me, Thirst always motivated me. We motivated each other. Every time we saw each other, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? What are you doing to make your life better tomorrow? You know? And I'm going to tell you actual fact here. We was 11 years old. Bonz looked at me. He said, yo, I'm going to write about hip-hop one day. And then when I started seeing his stories and his articles, I was like, yo, he said that. And I had to remind him one time. And he always told me, don't say nothing. You know what I mean? Like, but, you know, it's funny what you put out into the universe is going to manifest one way or another. You know, so like when we became friends back then, we all came from humble beginnings, you know, whether it was drugs, alcohol, physical abuse, you know, like all types of abuses. But you know what? Being each other's friends, we became brothers because we created a little family that we didn't have. So if one didn't have, we gave. Or they donated something to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, we always helped out. Yo, your mom's okay, family at home okay. If not, we wasn't always boosting clothes, boosting chicken, things to eat.
Yeah.
You understand? And then the same supermarket, we go get their alcohol and their supermarket ink, and we used to make ink and mix ink, and we used to have purple fingernails back then.
All the time.
Yeah, or if not, they have blends of cans on your nails, you know? So, like, we always had each other's back. We always took care of each other. We always checked on each other. You know, like, if they don't beat me to my house, I'm going to beat them to their house before they come out. You know what I'm saying? And over the years, we just kept keeping in touch. And it's what's, I'm going to say that's part of the blueprint that made each one of us a great man, you know, because we did go through failures, but failures make strong champions in the end, you know what I mean? So, like,
there's no doubt.
We have a lot of strength because there was a lot of failures. So the failures.
Thurston was shorter than me, man. He was shorter than me. So I used to see him at Beach 25th, out in Far Rock by the train station, because now we're in high school. We leave, we stepping up. Yeah. So I used to see the look on his face. And it's like, Thurston, he was like a hard cat to read. Even as a kid, hard to read. So I think he smiles more now than he did when he was a kid. So I see Thurston, I'd be like, yo, man, what's the matter with you, man? Like, who's messing with you? And like, I always asked him that. And one time, it's like, literally somebody was messing with him. I say, come on, let's go find this dude. Now, I ain't got a whole lot of stripes and all of that, man, at all. But I just didn't care. Let's just go. That's my man right there. And I like talking to him. And if I can't talk to him right now because somebody else got him upset, we gonna beat this nigga up. So we go find him. He pointed the dude out and beat this nigga up. And then it was really on after that. And although we still after school, we're break dancing, we're writing graffiti on Saturdays, tagging stuff up in classes. It's still. We had a family, my crew was Keep Out Suckers. He was down, Rudy's down. Yeah. We bombing on weekends, learning. You know how it is, learning. And when he moved to Brownsville, so first he moved to Florida, and then he moved to Brownsville. He went with KOS. He's still, still family. So he goes to Marcus Garvey, and he's pushing it over there.
Yeah.
But then, that's when USA and just the polo movement came out of the Garvey, came out of Brooklyn, different parts of Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? The rest is history, but they know about St. John's and Utica. It was just that brand, and I'm sure that it was, from Thurston, Disco. All the brothers that's on that side, just with the USA, set it off from Rockaway Avenue, man. And just by the time I started taking notice of it in Crown Heights on the St. John side, I didn't even know it was Vic and Rudy and Haz and all the rest of it. Niggas I'm bombing with on Kingston Avenue already. You know what I mean? Because we got a layup over there.
Every week. Yeah.
Every week. You know what I'm saying? But it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then once Thurston went away for a while, I was able to write about the clique because not just to be a family, but legitimately the movement just got bigger. It was certainly worthy of mad shout out, man, national acclaim because of the raise and just the size of how it was grown to at that particular time. It wasn't just me, Rudy, Vic. Nah, this was massive. You got people who are, going out there.
People in the industry was coming to us. That's why you see the old hip hop videos. They was wearing big knapsacks. They wanted to look like the Booster because now the Booster was looking better than a drug dealer.
Right.
You understand? Because now, okay, you got on the greatest Fela, but we got on the Ralph. We look in the preppy style now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we started changing. Ralph had round gold glasses back then. We used to have them, and people was just coming out with their Gazelles, and then we changed the game and came with the low frames that was gold. So I would say our urban uniform was unique. You know what I'm saying?
Always unique.
Yeah.
Always unique. Even before Polo.
Yeah.
Everything that we touched, starting with Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Every time. And then
all the
way that people knew about it. Yeah, the sheet, all of that. And the way that it really took off is because of the clubs. After school,
yeah.
After you tear up the schools, that's one thing. You come to school like that, all the kids is like, yo, that's the wave. But then in the clubs, that's when the artists, the rappers, all of the hip hop artists, who's ever performing, you know what the influence is in the crowd.
Yeah.
Now that they got a deal and they signed, they could, that was back in the days where you had a stylist and artist development. They could get the clothes for you. So they saw the influence in the clubs, man, and that's really what took it to another level.
Yeah, like, people think that Low Life started in '88, but Thirst, Bonz, myself, we started '84, with the Polo. I was out in Flatbush, but I'm the one who's gonna tell you that they bought Low to Flatbush. Do I take that recognition? No, because when it comes down to it, people get corrected by other people. I don't have to tell my story. You understand? The story speaks for itself. Just like how when we was having our graffiti and our things ran all 5 boroughs, or all 3, whatever, but we was known, and we was known for certain things. Like, we have other history. People couldn't come to the layups that we was at. They would leave half naked. Not only would they get robbed for their paint and their markers, get robbed for their gear. So we had to set a line. Because we was already taking mess at home, so we ain't gonna take it on the street, and we ain't gonna let nobody take nothing off of us. So, but being together, we was a good band of brotherhoods. We still are. We strong. We can call each other anytime. Like, we come through for each other. Thirst called me, yo, I'm gonna need you down here this weekend. So maybe this weekend I'll be flying down to go visit Vic. Thirst, rather.
Yeah, that's never changed.
Yeah.
That's never changed. We always dealt with duality. It's one thing that you see on the outside, but there was always something going on in the inside. But when '88 happened, I came into the industry.
Yeah.
So, the low lights took off to another. That's why there's no pictures of me with the rest of the brotherhood. You know what I mean? Because I was working for Def Jam at that time. That was my first job. It wasn't at a magazine. It was my first job. I was hired by Russell and Lior. You know what I'm saying? To write bios for everybody on Rush associated labels. So by '88, I'm writing Slick Rick's bio, and then Third Base, then Latifah, and then everybody else. That he had like 50 acts, So I immediately started going to work, and then I'm backstage, and so it was just crazy, man. Like one day I can't even go to no concert because I can't afford nothing like that. The next thing I know, I'm backstage. I got a laminated pass walking around like, yo, look out.
Yeah.
Look out, nigga.
Yeah.
We can wear what we want. You know what I'm saying? It's like we could, all the flavors that we got in the street, now we could really show off.
Let me ask you.
Oh my God.
Let me ask you a question, Bonz, right? As a writer, right? I have always found that, of course, I come later, you know what I'm saying? And I have more negative experience of magazine than you do, you know what I mean? And it's probably why I'm in so many of the magazines, you know what I mean?
I don't know.
He had his own
let's not assume that. You know, But in other words, I don't have many highs, though. That I could say that it certainly doesn't have the highs like you do. Yeah. But because I learned how to write because of it, but I didn't get to write anything that I could say, look at in that magazine. There's only one piece that I could say that I wrote that say, listen, that's Sunya's, that's my shit right there. Everything else I could see, I could see the parts that they butchered.
Right.
I think this has always been my contention that when I was writing, one of the negative things that would happen is that you got a lot of people that couldn't write, but they had degrees in writing, or they had general college degrees, and they were writing, and they were basically just putting the bio in, turning a 300 word bio into a 1,000-word piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and I've always felt that out of all the great things you did, that was probably one of the negative impacts that you had. And I don't mean it like negative you, but like the way people bite. Yeah. Because people don't realize that those bios that you wrote for Def Jam had so much style in them that they become how the writers, the journalists describe the artist.
That became the blueprint.
They become.
He created the blueprint.
Because by the time I'm in magazines and I do pieces, they literally tell me, put the bio in there. Make sure you use the bio and just add some questions in there. And then I was like, nigga, I'm not doing that. I'm not using the bio at all. I'm using the bio for information, not for style.
Yeah. For reference.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right.
So let me tell you what happened.
Please.
Because of writing for Def Jam, what happened was I would do the Slick Rick joint, third bass joint. When the EPK went out to the different magazines, they couldn't read it. They couldn't read it. They were like, "What the hell is this? This is just what kind of street shit is this?" Yeah, I can't read this. Who wrote this? Because you don't put your name on no bio.
Yeah.
So we're like, yo, who wrote this? And they would call Def Jam and be like, who the hell is this? Oh yeah, that's Bonz Malone. What? Is there like a layman's term to this? Is there another version of the bio? Because we don't know what the hell this is. We can't get through it because it was too pure. Like this is just straight street talk.
Yeah, because they had no connection to it.
They had no connection to it. So what they did was they contacted me on my own or on their own. They were like, yo, come write for the magazine. That's how it happened. So my first job was not at a news magazine or a music magazine, even though I came from the high school newspaper. It was for Def Jam. Mm-hmm. It was because they couldn't read the bio. It was too street. They were like, we got to get this nigga writing for us, man. He has to write this because we can't even attempt to, or we're going to just mess the whole thing up. Yeah. Get this nigga a check, bring him in. So I went to Spin Magazine, and then I did De La Soul. And that was just it. That was the stick of dynamite that just went off right there that showed others who... I respect them, I respect, especially now, because now that we're friends, so many years have gone by, I respect the fact that they're still writing and they love writing. I'm not the only person who loves writing. That was a big mistake. I always felt like I was the one who loved writing more because of graffiti. That's not true, man. It affected me in a different way. A very, very personal way. But I'm not the only one who could say that. And I alienated a lot of people because of that. And for the same reasons that you just mentioned, some people would talk down to you about the music that you love, and you could tell that they ain't got nothing to do with hip hop. And then another person just brings the bio in, like, yeah, just send in the band. So it was one or the other. Well, but it was never a kind of like a view, or very rare, where there was a view. It's like, here's the voice of the music that will actually talk to those who are insiders, talking to hip hoppers, not explaining what hip hop is. That's what everybody else was trying to do. And I was like, man, I'm not talking to them niggas. I'm talking to the people who are like me. I'm talking to Rudy. I'm talking to Vic. I'm talking to Rob, who's in jail. You know what I'm saying? That's who I was talking to. So it wasn't a gimmick. It was pure. And when they saw that it wasn't a gimmick after like 3, 4, 5 years, they were like, damn, nigga, there's nobody else doing it. It was like, because it was not to get on. It's to talk to the people who are disenfranchised, the people who that built the culture, but can't touch it now because it's an industry. You know what I mean? I'm talking to them. I'm not trying to explain. I believe that hip hop is for everybody to enjoy, not to understand. Not to understand.
Two different understandings. You're right.
That's two different things. So all the other writers, I ain't gonna say no names. Let them go ahead and explain what hip hop is to you. I'm not explaining shit. I'm not explaining that. I'm explaining what happened at the jam. You should have been there.
Indeed.
That's what I'm saying.
Indeed. And see, at this same moment, you're writing at Vibe, and you're doing the Sticks and Stones, eventually Tough Street, and I'm doing Sunset Style at the Baruch College newspaper, and I'm cursing up a storm. I remember having the Italian society get mad that I was cursing and trying to shut down my piece.
Yeah.
I remember saying I'm going to throw
Congratulations.
yeah. Oh, it was a highlight. It was a highlight. But when I would get into magazines, I was so disappointed when I was at Vibe because I couldn't write. I got in through the standard pieces, the reviews and things like that, and I wanted to write the reviews as dynamic as the others. So if they gave me 200 words, I would be like, let me flip the first 20 and say some crazy shit because I have such an abstract way of writing. And I wanted it to be something that represented an idea I got out of the piece. And they would always take it out. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I would try to write prose inside of it, and they would strip it out. But it would make it look clunky, all my pieces. So all my pieces were always clunky. You know what I mean? It was like...
All right, hold your thought for 1 second. Here's what you didn't know.
Right.
That wasn't always the editor. You know who it was? The lawyer. The lawyer.
Right.
100% correct. Yeah.
The other editor. Okay.
Right. The editor of the editor.
Know.
Right. How would you see this though? Because in my time, like when I was at the Source I was at the Source in 05 and Double XL in the late 90s, early 2000s. I always what I saw out of Harris Publications and what I saw out of the Source was that they were a conveyor belt. Mm-hmm. And everybody had, to me, I'm not going to diss nobody, but they had a non-style.
Yeah.
Like you could write something on a paper naked and nobody would know that they wrote it. Like they could write their best shit on a paper and you'd be like, I don't know who wrote that shit. But I did. If I wrote it on a paper, I was like, I come from I got to do it like Bonz. Yeah. Niggas need to know that, Sunez wrote this shit. And it's got his style and shit like that. And once it got through the conveyor belt, it would be totally different. Let alone information being taken out that you thought was crucial in the piece and stuff. And that was really why I didn't last too long at magazines. You know what I mean? I would be like, I would go back and cause a problem. I'd be like, why'd you take this out? Why'd you take that out? Why didn't you use this? And I guess they would get annoyed or they would laugh it out and stuff, And by then, it was pretty much over, Yeah,
it's pretty much over for magazines now. Anyway.
Right.
But not for writers.
All right,
absolutely. But not for writers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I went through the same things that you're describing, and that's the contrast that think about Sammy Davis Jr. What he did, to open doors for other black entertainers, the things that he went through. You have to do that. You go through those wars. I had the same invisible editors. I had some chick who was an executive for Coca-Cola, come to Vibe magazine, and I'm Bonz. I'm Bonz in the conference room, and she came down to talk to Keith Clinks here. And then looked at me, I'm all jaunty and shit. And then she was like, who's that? I was like, yeah, that's Bonz Malone. And then she said, oh, that's the one with the dirty mouth. And then I turned around and looked at her and was like, say what? Like, I just stopped. And it was like, she was fine as hell, too, soon as, let me tell you, she was fine as hell. I was like, what and then she looks at Keith and says, somebody should tell him to watch his mouth because we signed his check. And I just, she turned around like to keep on walking. I was like, well, it ain't enough. You know what I'm saying? Keith was mad. Oh my God, don't let us lose Coca-Cola. Like, Bonz, what are you crazy? Like, nah, it wasn't me, it was her, So there's always a measure of things that you learn, that you learn. What kept me going was my love for writing, not my love for turning up things. It was the love for writing. There were things that they took out many times, dropping jewels. Remember the guys that showed me a lot, Abby Doon, Eddie Ellis. So I'm turning, since I'm able to pick my own topics, I'm really putting it down. When I got sober, that's when I became really the talent that I had became really dangerous. I became dangerous then, because then now it's not just entertainment. Now I'm giving it up hard. I'm coming hard with shit, and all that stuff that Eddie and Abby are doing from the Last Poets told me. Now I know I got a clear mind to be able to use it, and they didn't like that. They did not like that at all. The lawyers even said, "Why don't you get? I don't really like this. I like the funny stuff that you used to do." I was like, "Yeah, I know I'm doing the right thing there." So they purposely took out something. I dropped the jewel, "How to Free the Slaves." In the first paragraph, the opening paragraph. You know how it is,
right?
You lead strong.
Right.
And they took it out. Man, I flipped. When I saw the edit, I was like, what the hell is going on? I knew it wasn't my editor. That's my man. That's my brother. He'd take a bullet for me. Literally. We had some situation with Puffy. That's another story. But literally, this nigga would take a bullet for me, and we getting ready to go on smash. So it couldn't be him. What happened here? He said, it's the lawyer, man. The lawyer couldn't do that. They couldn't come out. I said, listen, I know where the parameters are. He's just overdoing it. I didn't break the code, and I know that. Nah, he just didn't feel comfortable. So you know what I did? And this is what you could remember and also give to other people, because you don't know how much you've affected and how many people you've affected up to this point. The next column I did, I put that shit right back in there, and I let it again, and this time it went through. And that's what showed them. They like, don't play around with what I got to say, man.
Right.
Word up. And it was real purposeful, and I polished it a little. Right. I'll even say that, because I'm sure I had to compromise a little. So I compromised on the tone of what I was saying. It wasn't so angry, but it was even more effective and very much more painful, because it wasn't the angry voice. It was the polished, it was a casual voice, like, yeah, well, the sun's coming down, though. Like, really nonchalant, but hard as a brick. Crushed him. He couldn't do anything. And I learned from that right there. There are times that when you're dealing with sensitive issues, things that are very important to your people, things that will teach them to fish, you have to get that right. You have to. The benefit is, for them getting it. Right. So in order to ensure that you not only, mail the envelope, or seal the letter, but mail it, you change the tone. Know when to change the tone, so that you take it down a notch in as far as being angry, but it brings up, you compensate for it in effectiveness.
Got you.
Effectiveness is like, you get the point in there, and because of the fact it's not an angry man, they can't censor you openly, because they could use that as an excuse just to strip you of something that they don't want to empower the people anyway. Right. So if you're not the angry man, he's not the angry man though. Well, you don't got nothing else to stand on. They have nothing else to stand on, because you didn't go into the obvious trap. So any other time, bring the noise. I tell anybody, bring the noise. Bang, bang, bang. Turn up. Because they'll always remember the passion. Even if they don't agree with you, they respect the passion, the fire that you got. Right. But know when to put that in your pocket. When the topic is fire enough. You don't want to overdo it. Shoot yourself in the foot, and then they fire you, and then this life-saving information never comes out, because nobody else had the balls to do it like you anyway. Right. I see. So let the topic, that's how I was able to survive, brother. And that's what Eddie Ellis, especially Abiodun, was able, because he's an artist. So he was able to it was the way he was used to wordplay and how to change the tone of what he said to get it in. And he helped me with that. And then Eddie, you know, being incarcerated for you know, as a political prisoner, he showed me how to fight the system right on the page. But tone it down. Tone it down. As long as you know the law, you gonna beat them up. So don't be the angry man now. Let the law be angry for you.
I see it.
And we tore him up. And still was a hip hop fan. Like that. He still was like, yo, play the beat again. Play the beat. Because I was always an advocate of the beat. The beat is what hip hop is. You don't need the mic. You bring out a drum set.
That's right.
And play under a bridge. In 15 minutes, you're going to have a crowd, nigga. That's it. It's the beats that move hip hop culture, you know? But the industry is built on the mic, man. Right. The industry came from the lyrics. All right, that's why you got so much trash right now. But there's still some good stuff though. But that's the way it's split. The hip hop is the beats, and the industry is the rhymes, man.
Oh, okay, I see it. When I said I quit reading the Sticks and Stones column, though, right, and I stopped reading them because I didn't want to get anything, I left with one last one. The last one I read, and I had to look it up because I remember this quote, and I wanted to get the other sentence before it because I forgot. It was the Sticks and Stones column, December, January 95, right? Food for thought.
Oh,
and you said imagination is a tradition in our house. And the line that stuck with me, I have trust in my skill no matter what.
No doubt.
That stayed with me throughout the whole thing. Every bad piece I wrote, I was like, I have trust in my skill no matter what. Everywhere I was going, I would just repeat that shit. You know what I mean? And I said, I can't read no more Bonz, so I'm just going to remember that one line. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to write like Bonz. I didn't want, it would kill me if somebody said, yeah, you write like Bonz Malone. And I'd be like, oh, that's
I know what you're saying. Hey, listen, that was one of my favorite articles. I know that one that was in my sleep because
it was you and the artist. It was you and your artist. Oh my God! It was you and your artist.
Me and Dante. He was a chef. He was a chef, and he was making shark. Yeah. He was making shark. So he drew a picture. Shout out to T.T. Fox.
That was Cuban Links right before it came out because it didn't come out until the summer, and I was like, what? This nigga is ahead of Cuban Links. I was like, oh shit.
Word up. It's like, yo, how do you make shark? You know? So he's explaining as a chef, like how do you prepare shark?
If that piece comes out in September, they probably do a drawing of you behind like Donze, like Ghost and Ray.
Yeah, we timed it.
I want to segue to Rakim before I go back to something else about the writer.
Yeah, he's my man. That's my man.
Rakim, Rudy Lowe, like you gave me these L's, and I'm one of the few people that have L's as a lowlife who has never jacked a piece of clothing ever. And I'm proud of that. I have jacked many cassettes. And Bonz, you know that we needed to have those because I needed to hear everything. I can't write about the music if I don't hear everything. You gotta let me hear everything. So I have to take everything, and I stole everything except vinyl because I'm 5'4" and it didn't look good in my clothes, no matter how baggy they were. That shit was not looked like a giant square on my body, but I was taking everything. But to be part of the Low Lives now is such an honor to say, like, here's what I think, right? My life is like the idealism of the hip hop lyric that all you guys were talking about and living. Because I heard people talk about Kung Fu. I heard people talk about knowledge of self. I heard people talk about writing and how you write dope. And so instead of going into the street to do crime, I went back to the street to do everything I thought was idealistic in it. You know what I'm saying? And I get the L's, Rudy. And now I'm part of the low lives because of what I done in hip hop, what I done in the community, teaching at the school, at a law school in Mecca. But when I look back at you, like I said in the intro, an activist, a photographer, a lot of the stuff that you photographed is literally a timeline of a lot of stuff that was really not that isn't really documented that way before.
I'm gonna tell you, not to cut you, but
No, please.
What I want to tell you about my photography, you know, and a lot of people know. Well, not too many people know. Only my inner circle knows. The reason I got into photography, right? One of my friends, he also a little. We used to take cameras from tourists, and after we get like 4 or 5, then we go pawn them. One day I was like, let me just take this. And then I had a teacher who taught me photography, right? And then she asked me, she said, why do you want to learn photography, right? And I told her, I said, every day of my life, I lose a friend to something. So I want to capture them in a time when everything was good before the bad came. You know what I mean? So I have a lot of friends that are no longer here. You know, like Bonz, Durst, like we're so lucky that we have each other. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people didn't get a chance to be around here, whether it's just walking to the store or beef they got into or something they got. They're no longer here, or to a ailment. But I don't look at photography the way some photographers look at it. I also like shooting landscape. I like shooting architecture. Candids. People not looking at the camera, just because I find a way to make my story known through my pictures. You make your story through your pen, Bonz too, but your ways in action is what attracted you to us. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a long conversation with Thirst about you, and I had a long conversation with Bonz. And Bonz was actually praising you a lot, and he doesn't praise a lot of writers. He quick to say,
hell yeah,
that writer's trash. He was like, yo, Sounez got something. And I was like, you know what? That's without a thought then. You know what I'm saying? Because they're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. So I'm like, wow, so, your A alike thinks alike. You know what I'm saying? So then I was like, you know what? I just wanted to put that out there for you because, you say you didn't write the stories the way you wanted to write them, but you did because you know what? That's what attracted us to read your material and look at your material and then look at you as a person. Because we was like, okay, we know the writing. Now let's see the person. Let's see the individual. Let's see how he moves. Let's see what other gods say. You know what I'm saying? Like, we did, like how you do the knowledge on us, we had to do the knowledge on you, bro. And that's what made me come and give you the L's, bro. That man right there, Bonz Malone.
For me, it is, I understand from just God's blessing, man. Throughout a career of not even knowing I would have a career, I would have been, for me, content with just bombing trains forever, man. I love graffiti that much.
Right.
Thank God. He was like, nah, man, you ain't doing that. That saved me in many ways. But I know the experience of how to have a career. And it's not because that you came out and you just smashed right out the box. And, that's what I used to think, but that's inexperience, man. Inexperience. Anybody with experience would tell you the work that you do first should suck. The next one should be better.
Right.
The one after that should be great. And then the last one, the fourth one, should be fantastic. That's when you got a career. It's not that you knock it out the box the first time and then the next 3 attempts is trash. You ain't got no career then. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when you look at it like that, you learn to appreciate humility and what the process is all about. And don't ever think about, the fact that what happened in magazine.
Oh, indeed.
It's about now. That's where you started. And where we started was on a wall. But look what came after. always look ahead. You know, it's the fact that you got a talent that, you know, the one thing about writing, if you do that well, and what I mean by well, it's not about style. Forget about style. Everybody got style. They don't even know what style they got. You know what I'm saying? Or what style is. The better you are at grammar, punctuation, oh my God, that takes you to another level in writing in any genre, in any form, period. Because most people don't know it. They don't remember it from school. You know, most people are working, you know, as a cashier, brother. They you know, most people every day are reading 5th grade level. That's what every newspaper in the country
That's
is
exactly
set to,
correct, yes.
5th grade reading level. But they got the Times or the Chicago Manual, you know, as an editor to check you when you're wrong. It's 5th grade reading level. What are you talking about? You know, so there's a hypocrisy there.
Indeed,
you know, you got to know when to go off the page. But always, your career is never off the page, no matter what form it's in. Not when you're a writer, man. That's a hell of a decoration when you get that from any literary school or any editor of Worth or anything like that. When somebody say, man, you could write your ass, or brother, you could write your own ticket, literally. Because there's people in school that can't do it.
I definitely
Word
see
up.
that.
Because they're too concerned with what style is and self-doubt, and you know, and they're not writing. They're overthinking. They're not writing.
Indeed. And Rakim, what I wanted to note with people with your photography was the richness in color. And it makes sense what you're saying, what you're trying to preserve. When you look through Rakim's photos, you know, people talk about like filtering and things like that, and they do all this stuff to add stuff.
I don't edit my
no
pictures.
filtering in
I
the
don't
pictures.
edit my pictures. You know
and
why?
There's such a vibrancy in them.
I come from the film era. You couldn't brighten up a film. You couldn't take away. You couldn't down anything. There was no filters. The only filters there was the ones you screw on the lens. That was it.
Right.
So you know, and photographers have come up to me. They was like, yo, I know your work. I know you don't edit. I know you don't have an edit anything on your computer. I was like, yeah, I don't. Because I come from film. See, so like if you come from film, there was no, you know, now they have copies that you could put up the film and then you can edit it that way. I don't do that. My shot is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Whether I stand there 2 seconds or 2 minutes.
That's dope.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like you see how Bonz and yourself have the originality in writing? I have the originality in my pictures.
Oh, actual fact.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, that's like when we was doing graffiti. Bonz has his style, I have my style, but you know it's his style, and you know my style is my style. You know what I'm saying? And Thirst had his style. You know what I'm saying? So like, the things we started with, those are the fundamentals of what we do to this day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you see how he's telling you how to write. It's like anything in life. Like if you become a mason, right? And you got a square stone, right? And you shaping it. First is a rough ashlar. Then you shape it. It becomes a perfect column. You got to start somewhere. You had to start rough. So that was another saying in my life. If it ain't rough, it ain't right. So when I go through these rough steps, I know because it's gonna be right in the end. You understand? So that's like what we always had knowledge itself in us. It's just that somebody had to point it out to us. You know what I'm saying? And show us how to build on it more. That's what attracted me to the knowledge.
And today, Rakim, since the time I was saying off air before we got on air that before I got L's, this was kind of the goal to continue, that people like me and others and people that are always low lives are seeking to make this a hip hop organization, but official. Like when people look at it, they don't go, oh, it's just former gang trying to do something, you know?
First of all, we was never a gang.
Right. But this is what people say.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot has to do with the documentaries. What Thurston's done great with being in the Very Ralph and how incredible he represented in that documentary. The Complex documentary that had a lot of stuff in it that was great. But also the man-to-man word on the street stuff that you've been doing. You know what I'm saying? And you're an important liaison in all of this. At all of these events, these barbecues, these low-life events, low and lyric shows, you're the one that's going, listen, I want you to meet my man over here. Because I know, because I was one of the guys that you were bringing around and introducing to everybody. What has been the progress to you that you've been most happy with since, let's say, 2016 and today with Low Lives?
A lot of things, you know, like you said, you know, there are stories I can't elaborate on that still haven't been told. There are pictures that still haven't been shown. There are so many things that we're saving for later. Because there's stories before the low. There's a lot of stories before the low. You know, the Johns and the Garvey got together in 88, but we've been doing it since 84. You know what I'm saying? So, like, everybody has a story before the actual story. My thing is this, you know, I've seen a lot of positive growth in all of us, you know, because we motivate each other. That's one. You know, like now it's different from, you know, the days of when we started this. You know, now it's what do you bring to the table? You know, what do you see yourself doing by getting else? What do you see yourself doing for the movement, for people in general? You know what I'm saying? You don't always have to do something for Low Lives, or Low Lives doesn't always do everything for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like there's functions that we don't even tell people. You know what I'm saying? Certain people like recognition. I hate that. You know what I'm saying? Because if I do something, it's from the heart. That's first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? Like I get acknowledgments from people I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? They'll DM me and be like, sometimes I be thinking it's not the person, but it is. You know what I mean? I be like, nah, somebody made up this account. But then when you look, you be like, oh, snap, wow. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of recognition. Right. You know, like in the community, you know, a lot of people don't know I've been a Mason since 95. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I'm up on both sides of that square and compass. You know, I'm a Master Mason, Royal Arch Mason, Consistory, you know, Knights Templar. I'm up on both sides of that. You know what I'm saying? So I could go anywhere in the world and be acknowledged. But do I do that? You see me with the rings? No. See me with anything? No. You know, like I don't have to advertise who I am. I already know who I am. You know, I don't take a picture and say, oh, look, the gram, look, I woke up today to do this. You know, I'm outside now walking down the block. You know what I'm saying? Like, where we come from, you get punched in the face for that. Like, you know, what are you doing? How is that progressive? How is that helping you build a legacy that you saving for your children? You understand? Like, my children have called me from Georgia and said, yo, Dad, I met people that know you. And I was like, well, how do you know they know me? He was like, because they said things that you would say. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, okay. You know, so but I don't bring up stuff.
Indeed. It's an untold story. Maybe one day we'll write a suitable edited
like I always say, we come from humble beginnings.
Indeed. I wanna go back to, I said that this show for me is the 100th show, Bonz. It is very celebratory for me, and I'm not a very celebratory person when it comes to the work I'm doing.
Yeah.
This show I always intro as the show of my element of hip hop. I say it's my element of hip hop, the hip hop writer. And for this show, I said it was our element of hip hop because Bonz is on the show. And I've put a lot of titles on you, Bonz, but you put one title on me. I have said that this is a hip hop writer element. I've been trying to say this since 1995. You know what I mean? And in the 2010s, I gave early in the show, I talked about premierhiphop.com and the books I've been able to write and actually prove it, like actually show it. Because my goal, once I started to write in 2000, definitely by 2012, was I'm going to be the one to show it out there, like what it actually is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the pieces for the listener, when I say art on art and science on music, actual science, like actual detail about the music, actual talk about the lyrics, the way the music is syncopated, though, the detailing the sounds of the music without just sample snitching. You know what I mean? All of this, but infusing art into it, where that piece that I just wrote is an art piece, a piece that has poetry in it that you can blatantly extract, and prose inside of it. You go, woo, that motherfucker right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I said I was doing what you are, the father of this element. And my goal, and I want to put it in the context of my goal in hip hop has always been to do what Amiri Baraka did in jazz. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the only visual that I had of someone being creative and not forced creative, you know, because I know, Bonz, you know what I'm talking about when you see during your time all these pieces that were written with very floral language in the intro of the feature piece that had nothing to fucking do with Mobb Deep or nothing to fucking do with the fucking artist that was there. And I was like, I don't give a shit about the leaves that are on the branch on the third tree near the bookstore that Mobb Deep just curled around the corner to meet you at. You know what I mean? But something that had to do with the shit. And it was always you, Bonz Malone. You were the model. And I said it was the show was about the hip hop writer element. And the day I met and got to build with Prince Power Rule, who's now Marcano the Leftovers, the same Leftovers collective that I'm a part of now, the anti-gentrification collective. You saw us in a picture in 2016 and you said power rule and power right. So you said that, Bonz. And when I made this show with my brother Math producing, I was like, Math, I gotta call it the Power Right Show. The father of the fucking element called me Power Right. I gotta call it the Power Right Show. You know what I mean? And so that's where the name. So you named this show, and you had to be here on the 100th episode. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, I'm glad, man. I'm glad.
As I say this, and all these years that I've been trying to make this so overt, though, I want to ask you honestly, how do you see this concept of a hip hop writer having his own element? You know, blatantly calling it that. Something that I felt you've been doing this whole time.
Well, that's interesting because, you know, let's put it to hip hop. You know, I'm never said, and I'm not the type of person to say that I am hip hop. You know, because it's so much bigger than me. I've contributed to it, you know what I mean, and helped keep it what it is. But that doesn't make me think. It doesn't make me what the culture is. You know, look, I'm the type of person, man. I don't need titles. My name is my title. You know what I'm saying? And I really mean that. That's as a graffiti writer. That's what it's all about. You know, it wasn't. You know, Rakim knows I had a name belt back when I was 13 years old, 14 years old. Let's say King Bonz on.
That's right.
I mean, everybody laughed at that. We like, this nigga, that wasn't king of nothing, nigga. What? You know, but it wasn't about at that moment.
Right.
It was about like where do you see yourself, or where you're going, man. Where you going? So, you know, I don't personally, you know, see myself as the father of phonetic spelling. Maybe in magazines, you know, But phonetic spelling has always been a part of the ghetto. You know, every black, Puerto Rican, Irish, Yiddish, you know what I'm saying? It's in New York, man. We've always had, you know, phonetic spelling, gathering of ghetto writers, you know, since the beginning of New York City. That's never going to go down. And we say it better than anybody else anywhere with that slang. So, you know, I say all of that just to say that I'm happy to still be contributing in some kind of way. You know, life has changed. I'm not, you know, directly involved with it like it was every day. But, you know, just to be able to have contributed to it, just to be able to say that writing has helped keep me out of prison, just to be able to say that, you know, writing has helped open the eyes and the ears and the hearts of people who were incarcerated. Now they're out and they're writing their story. They're putting it on books, and I still, to this day, like Eddie Ellis showed me to do for, you know, my God, over 30 years ago, always give back to the community. So I've always given talks at prisons, you know, behind the scenes. I don't care what's going on in the industry, you know, for over 25, like almost 30 years, always talking to whether they're kids, whether it's a Supermax, Max facility, you know, low facility, it doesn't matter. I'm always talking about what you're going to do when you get out. You know, and it has nothing to do with hip hop. You know, we're not even really talking about records, especially with the young kids, because they weren't there. So, you know, I think the best advice, I mean, y'all know me, the best advice that I could give at this point now, and I'm proud to do it on your show on the 100th anniversary of episodes, is stop telling these young niggas that they ain't hip hop. That they don't know what hip hop is, rather. Exactly. Okay? And comparing the old school to what's going on right now. Yeah, it's different, but they'll never have that as a reference point. They weren't there. So it sounds stupid. You know what I mean? Oh, you don't know what hip hop is. It was like, yo, they wasn't there. You know? The real question to ask them is, what do you think hip hop should be?
Exactly.
Now you got a conversation. So that kid is gonna stop, just like everybody stops when they hear me say that, and we're like, oh shit, yeah, because you can't bullshit your way out of this answer. You got to really stop and think about what hip hop should be, and how are you going to contribute to it. So I'm going to be on the passenger seat, where I should be because I'm an OG, and I'm going to help you get to where you need to be. I'm not going to take the steering wheel from you.
I hear that.
Exactly.
Talk about, nah, nigga, that ain't hip hop. You know, let me drive. I've already drive, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Now I got off and walked the rest of the way. You know, but if I'm going to really do some help to my community and really not talk about it, but be about it, then I'm going to be in the passenger seat. And, you know, as I hear you tell me what you think hip hop should be, since I know what it is, I'm going to tell you where to make a U-turn at. Here, make a left turn here. Here's a shortcut to get to where you want to be at, because I've been there already. And that's my job. Now that I'm older, you know what I'm saying? I'm a minister now, man. I ain't grabbing too many mics these days. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Jehovah's Witness. So I should be in the passenger seat. Make a U-turn. Don't follow these niggas, because they don't know where they're going. They're in front of you and they don't know where they're going. So don't follow them. Make a U-turn here, double back, make a left here, and you see what I'm saying. You show them the principles of what what hip hop is, based on what Tribe did, Buster did, Mobb Deep did. All of these different reference points, even though that they weren't there, their examples are powerful. You know what I mean? What Wu-Tang did. You know, if they really want to hustle out the box, like to break out the box, you know, and I would really encourage more people, you know, especially writers, you know what I'm saying, starting with you know what I'm saying? Please let them know that that's our job now, you know, as older statesmen of hip hop. That's their job. And, you know, I believe that that's what KRS should be doing, and all of these other, you know, all of these other brothers you know, who I could talk to on a personal basis, whether on Facebook or anything, please don't shame these kids by comparing them to our day and to their day. That's impossible, and it's not fair. Just help them get to where they're going, because time is running out. They ain't gonna have time for everybody to be there. You already know that. Most of them niggas is gone. That's a fact. So the ones who are most serious about it, please let them know how to get there in the fastest amount of time, and keep integrity. Keep integrity as they're doing it, man, so that they can enjoy the ride. And then at the end of the day, they be like, yo, I know who I am, man.
That's peace. That's peace. You know, and I say all that, and it's really only, and I'm saying this because this is my 100th show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And trying to, in making this, I feel like I know that I have succeeded in showing that this hip hop writer journalism isn't an anomaly of the others. It is something that has a blueprint to it, and can be veered away from and made unique by someone else. And that's why that was always my goal, to make it so overt that it could be creative in all of its aspects, and something that I think was lost in the journalism and every place that I was seeing. And I'm so honored to have had you on this show, Bonz, just to tell you how much you've meant to me as a writer. It's really only a few that have inspired me like this, you know, like it was whatever, do it dope like Bonz, do everything like Babito, because he's the Puerto Rican that does all the media shows, everything. If he does it, you could. And then it was the old guys, you know, the legends, the Miguel Piñero, Amiri Baraka, and do it like that. So all these things, all these songs that people have me get on, all these other things I get to do, it's still a hip hop writer writing. You know what I'm saying? Whether I speak it out loud or I write it in the print or page or book. And it's been such an honor to have you two brothers here on this show, because you brothers, and also Thurston Howe, have been so important in my career and in my life, though, because honestly, writing and this hip hop shit really is is part of my life. It's not like a career. It's really my life. You know? It's not something like I just write. That's what I do.
See, but that's interesting. You should say that journalism is journalism.
Exactly.
Writing is writing. Okay? That's for real. So the real enjoyment is writing. Journalism is a job. Writing isn't. Writing isn't.
Absolutely.
And you are going to enjoy it. You know, especially the older you get, the better you will get. You know, that's the joy of what writing is. Journalism, not necessarily. That could be the beginning. Right. That's the beginning, but it's short. Don't let that be the end. Man, that shit'll drive you to drinks, man. Word up.
Well, I want to close out with since it's my 100th show and showing all this, though, a particular quote that when I got Knowledge of Self, I thought everything I wrote was wrong, and I stopped in 1999 for a while. You know what I mean? And plus, I hated that Double XL kept fucking up what I was writing. You know what I mean? And then I heard GZA's Beneath the Surface album. I love the GZA. And he had a line on Breaker Breaker in the second verse. He said, the significance was not the vulgar applause of interest, but the feeling, that exit, completion of a sentence. With age and experience, my reason ripens. And I was like, oh shit, I gotta go write. And I just took out that journal, that composition book, and wrote like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? And here I am. And so Bonz, I want to thank you.
I wrote his bio, by the way.
Of course you wrote GZA's bio.
Man right
one of the greatest of all time, man. One of the greatest lyricists ever. Oh, man. It's been such an honor to have you brothers on the show. It's my 100th episode. I'm I'm ecstatic. I'm so honored.
The great God. Yeah.
Until the next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce. For my incredible legendary guest, Rakim Supreme Shabazz, the incredible photographer, liaison of men, becoming great men, and Bonz Malone, who I still consider the father of my element, though, the great one. Thank you so much. And as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.
What up? Peace.